Hello, I'm Bakhtiar Sanwa and you're watching A News. Let's take a look at today's top stories. Benjamin Netanyahu and Donald Trump to meet on Wednesday in Washington, D.C. to discuss negotiations with Iran. United States aims to end Russia-Ukraine conflict by June, Zelensky says. And Japan's governing party projected to win snap election majority. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu will travel to Washington, D.C. next week for talks with U.S. President Donald Trump focused on Iran, his office said. The meeting is scheduled for Wednesday and comes as the United States and Iran held 2 rounds of indirect talks in Oman on Friday. Netanyahu's office said any agreement must include limits on Iran's ballistic missile program and an end to Tehran's support for regional armed groups. The White House has not commented on the meeting yet.
So you say Iran is so weak. I appreciate it.
Indirect talks between the United States and Iran in Oman have been described as a good start, with both sides agreeing to continue negotiations on nuclear issues. Meanwhile, reactions in Tehran have been cautiously positive, with some Iranians expressing optimism about diplomacy, but also clear limits on what they believe should be negotiated.
Public reaction in Tehran has been cautiously optimistic following indirect nuclear talks between Iran and the United States in Oman, with citizens voicing support for diplomacy but also clear limits.
I feel that with a dignified step back and some concessions that do not call Iran's entire nuclear program into question, it is possible to move forward with a plan that both spares the people from harm and takes a step towards peace and security in the region. At the same time, we must pursue diplomacy and negotiations while keeping our finger on the trigger, ready, God forbid, to defend our homeland if we are subjected to aggression.
Others say negotiations are in the interest of both sides, arguing that diplomacy is preferable to the risk of military confrontation.
Countries like the United States and its allies want an agreement with Iran to avoid a military phase, because Iran is also a military power. From this perspective, we are optimistic about the negotiations.
But there is little appetite among the public for talks that go beyond Iran's nuclear program.
Our politicians have said clearly that talks should only focus on the nuclear program and not our defensive capabilities. Our defensive power acts as a deterrent. Within that nuclear framework, an agreement can be reached, and that is enough.
Iranian officials have echoed that position, insisting negotiations must remain limited to nuclear issues, even as Washington has pushed for broader discussions.
Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky says the United States wants the war with Russia to end by early summer and is likely to press both sides to meet that deadline. He said the timing may be linked to the U.S. election campaign and confirmed that Washington has proposed a new round of talks between the United States, Ukraine and Russia, possibly in Miami within a week, with Kiev agreeing to attend. Meanwhile, Russian forces launched another overnight attack on Ukraine's energy infrastructure, the second in less than a week, hitting power stations and power lines in the west and causing emergency power cuts nationwide. Ukraine has sought urgent help from Poland, with staff at nuclear plants placed on alert as a precaution. At least 3 people were killed when several avalanches struck northern Italy on Saturday, as rescue teams warned the situation in the Alps remains unstable. 2 people died in Lombardy, while a skier was killed in Trentino after being buried off-piste on the Marmolada mountain. Earlier in the day, 2 ski tourists were caught in an avalanche in the Aosta Valley, but were pulled free unharmed. It's a big day for Portugal. The country is holding the second round of its presidential election, with polls pointing to a clear win for socialist Antonio José Seguro over far-right rival André Ventura. Heavy storms and flooding, however, appear to be keeping some voters away.
Portugal is voting on Sunday in the second round of its presidential election, with opinion polls pointing to a clear victory for socialist candidate Antonio José Seguro over far-right rival André Ventura. Recent storms brought heavy rain, flooding and strong winds, forcing 3 local councils to delay voting by a week. Around 37,000 voters were affected, while turnout today appears lower than in the first round.
I hope that these better weather conditions will allow people to come out and vote. This is the moment when the people are sovereign, when every vote counts and truly decides the future of our country.
Some voters said the weather had made voting difficult, while others blamed a lack of interest.
I really hope it changes, don't you? That's why we're here casting our votes, which has been quite complicated due to the stormy weather, but I really hope it changes, although I notice that fewer people are turning up for this second round of voting.
I don't think turnout is lower because of the bad weather. It may be lower because many people are simply not interested.
Partial results will be released Sunday night. On Friday, Seguro ended his campaign with a rally in Porto, presenting himself as a safe and steady choice. Surveys suggest he is on course to win between 50 and 60% of the vote.
It is a candidacy of millions. I hope that there will be millions, more than 1 million, obviously, of Portuguese people who understand that they must converge on the candidacy that I am leading so that we can defend the essence of our regime, which is to continue living in democracy, to continue respecting each other, continue to resolve our problems peacefully, and above all, ensure that regardless of our convictions and our choices, we exercise our freedoms.
Ventura blamed the weather for low turnout, saying it was wrong to hold the election while parts of the country were flooded. On Friday, he ended his campaign in Alcácer do Sal, helping storm victims and criticizing the government for acting too slowly.
The low turnout at the polls is due to those who want to hold elections at all costs and those who want to hold elections with half the country devastated by the storm and at risk of new storms.
Although the Portuguese presidency is a largely ceremonial role, it carries significant political weight at times of crises, as the head of state can dissolve parliament, dismiss the government, call a snap election, and veto legislation. Outgoing Conservative President Marcelo Rebelo de Sousa has been in office since 2016 and is constitutionally barred from seeking a third consecutive 5-year term.
Japan's ruling party, led by Prime Minister Sanae Takaichi, is set to seal a decisive win in Sunday's snap election, exit polls suggest. The country's first female prime minister is seeking a clear public mandate just 4 months after becoming Liberal Democrat Party leader.
Japan voted in a national election on Sunday after Prime Minister Sanae Takaichi dissolved parliament and called a snap vote. An exit poll by the Nikkei newspaper shows her Liberal Democratic Party is set for a landslide victory, winning at least 233 seats, enough to secure a single-party majority in the 465-seat lower house. The campaign has been dominated by cost-of-living concerns. Takaichi's pledge to suspend an 8% sales tax on food has boosted voter support but unsettled financial markets, raising questions over Japan's already heavy public debt. Critics say the snap election leaves little time for debate and comes at a difficult moment, with record snowfall disrupting parts of the country and potentially affecting turnout.
There is no reason for to have the snap election this time around. We have to have the delays in the execution of the budget, and in the heavy snow regions, having election is very costly and makes a lot difficult for even ordinary people to go to the voting booths.
A decisive win can also affect Japan's foreign and security policy, including its increasingly tense relationship with China. Analysts say a strong mandate may make Takaichi more confident in pursuing defense reforms.
If Takaichi would win this election by landslide, she would assume the election gave her mandate. So she probably becomes more confident in her stance on the security policy.
Turnout, particularly among younger voters, could influence the scale of Prime Minister Takaichi's expected win.
And now we'll take a look at the major stories from the region. One of the world's largest defense industry events is getting underway today in Riyadh as the World Defense Show opens its doors to companies and delegations from dozens of countries. The exhibition brings together cutting-edge military technologies and high-level officials at a time of growing global security challenges. Roy Mustafa has more from Riyadh.
The World Defense Show and International Defense Industry Exhibition opens today in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia. The event covers land, air, sea, space and security sectors, bringing together leading defense companies, government officials and industry leaders from around the world. The World Defense Show attracts global attention. This year, over 76 countries are participating, with more than 773 exhibitors showcasing their products and technologies. The event is expected to welcome over 106,000 visitors, 441 international delegations, and 954 accredited media representatives. Participants include companies and official bodies from the United States, the United Kingdom, France, Germany, Italy, Turkey, Azerbaijan, South Korea, Japan, China, the UAE, and other countries across Europe, Asia, the Middle East, and Africa. Key highlights of the exhibition include unmanned aerial and ground systems, armored vehicles, missile and radar systems, cybersecurity, artificial intelligence, and autonomous technologies. The event also provides extensive opportunities for high-level official meetings, bilateral talks, and strategic partnerships. The World Defense Show is regarded as one of the most prestigious international platforms for showcasing innovative technologies, fostering international cooperation, and discussing the future of the global defense industry. Nuray Mustafa and Zohrab Shirinov for A News, Riyadh, Saudi Arabia.
At a World Defense Show in Riyadh, Azerbaijan's growing role in advanced defense technologies drew strong international interest. In an exclusive interview with A News, Slovakia's Minister of Defense Robert Kaliniak spoke about expanding defense cooperation with Azerbaijan, combining Slovakia's long-standing expertise in heavy machinery and artillery with Azerbaijan's advanced capabilities in drone technologies.
Actually, each country has some advantages and some knowledge and expertise. As we have long year tradition of heavy machinery, so we offer our experiences about the artillery and mortars. As Azerbaijan is absolutely great in new advanced technologies, we're talking about the drones, we will asking for cooperation in this area. So I think it will be very balanced and we're very looking forward.
The Arab League is celebrating its 80th anniversary in Beijing to showcase growing ties with China. Secretary General Ahmed Aboulgate said the event highlights 2 decades of close political and economic cooperation between the Arab world and China. He expressed hope that many Arab leaders would attend and that the partnership would continue to strengthen for years to come.
We made the choice of China for the cooperation that we have had with the Chinese over the last 20 years. Arab League and China established a kind of a forum of cooperation in 2004. So it is already 21 years. A ministerial meeting between the foreign minister of China and all the Arab foreign ministers once every 2 years. We have had also in 22 in December in Saudi Arabia, the first Arab summit. We will be having the second Arab summit in Beijing 26. So we find easiness in the cooperation with China, and the Chinese are reciprocating to our friendship. So we are working together.
Pakistani authorities arrested 4 people on Saturday, a day after a suicide bomber killed at least 32 people at a mosque in Islamabad. Interior Minister Mohsin Naqvi said the suspects, including the alleged mastermind, were detained. 1 counter-terrorism officer was killed and 3 others wounded during the operations. The attack claimed by the Islamic State targeted a mosque on the outskirts of the capital and injured over 170 people.
Immediately after the blast, raids were conducted in Peshawar and Nowshera, and 4 facilitators were arrested. The most important development is the mastermind, who belongs to Daesh, Islamic State, Afghanistan, has also been arrested. Our 1 ASI, Assistant Sub-Inspector from KPK Police, was killed during this raid last night. Some of our personnel were also wounded. However, the main mastermind, who belongs to Daesh, Islamic State, is in our custody.
Families of the victims gathered at hospitals in Islamabad after a suicide attack on a mosque killed dozens during Friday prayers, as world leaders and the United Nations condemned the violence and voiced support for Pakistan.
At Islamabad's largest public hospital, families waited through the night in packed corridors, searching for news of loved ones injured in one of the deadliest attacks the capital has seen in years.
They went inside the mosque to offer Friday prayers. The blast occurred and he is critically injured, and my nephew's son has been martyred. He is in the operating theatre.
Officials say the attacker opened fire at the mosque entrance before detonating explosives inside the Khadijatul Kubra Imambarga compound on the outskirts of Islamabad. Survivors described hearing gunfire moments before the blast.
At first there was gunfire, 5, 6 fires, then there was a silence. After 15-20 seconds there was an explosion. Chaos took place after the blast. People were running here and there. I did not feel I was hit because my back became numb. I came to know later that my back was hit as I came out.
The Islamic State group later claimed responsibility for the attack, which targeted Pakistan's Shiite minority. Sectarian violence has repeatedly hit the community in the past. The attack has been widely condemned by world leaders. The United Nations, Russia, China, Turkey, Iran and several European countries denounced the attack and expressed solidarity with Pakistan. Canada and Australia offered condolences, while the United States said Pakistanis should be able to practice their faith without fear and reaffirmed its commitment to the country's stability and security. Many leaders reaffirmed support for Pakistan's fight against terrorism and stressed the need for international cooperation to bring those responsible to justice.
Armenia's foreign ministry held a meeting chaired by Prime Minister Nikol Pashinyan to review foreign policy results for 2025. Armenian media reported. Foreign Minister Ararat Mirzoyan said Armenia continued efforts to advance peace with Azerbaijan, including work on a peace treaty and confidence-building measures. Officials also discussed ties with Turkey, the United States, the European Union, and regional partners Georgia and Iran. Azerbaijan and Turkey have discussed allied cooperation, regional security, and the Azerbaijan-Armenia normalization process during a telephone conversation between their foreign ministers, Azerbaijan's foreign ministry said. Ministers Ceyhun Bayramov and Hakan Fidan also exchanged views on developments in the Middle East, coordination in international organizations, and other issues of mutual interest. Greek Prime Minister will visit Turkey on February 11th at the invitation of President Recep Tayyip Erdogan. He will take part in the 6th meeting of the High-Level Cooperation Council between the two countries. Turkish officials say discussions will focus on expanding cooperation and reviewing bilateral ties. Turkey is strengthening its science diplomacy in Antarctica as part of its 10th National Antarctic Scientific Expedition. Turkish scientists have visited multiple foreign research bases, highlighting Ankara's growing role in international scientific cooperation on the frozen continent.
On the frozen edge of Antarctica, Turkish researchers are moving from one foreign laboratory to another, not as visitors, but as collaborators. As part of Turkey's 10th National Antarctic Scientific Expedition, the team is stepping inside research stations run by Chile, Russia, South Korea, China, and Bulgaria. comparing data, sharing infrastructure, and exploring joint projects in one of the world's harshest environments. Here, cooperation matters as much as discovery. Scientific diplomacy unfolds quietly through shared experiments, joint fieldwork, and trust built far from capitals. One moment captured that spirit. At Chile's Professor Julio Escudero Bas on King George Island, the Turkish flag was raised during a year marking 100 years of diplomatic relations between Turkey and Chile, linking polar science with a century of bilateral ties. For Turkish researchers, Antarctica is more than ice and data points. It is a place where long-distance diplomacy happens quietly through shared experiments, joint fieldwork, and trust built far from capitals. Say Turkey plans to continue expanding its scientific presence on the continent in the years ahead.
That's the news for this hour. Stay tuned to A News for more updates, and thank you for joining us.